Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is Fire Six Dave, and with us today we have Perv and Angry Phil, and today is our first pub crawl. Thanks for joining us today. The pub crawl is something that we've been talking about for quite a while now, and really to you guys, what is it? To me, it's a bunch of guys who've been talking sports. So what is it to you guys?
I think it's 100% exactly what you said. You know, we always here at the pub crawl. We have drinks. We watch sports. There's the TVs here all over the place with all different, games, baseball, football, basketball. We debate all the time. It's like, why not do something we enjoy doing and put it to use and have fun doing it and put it on out there for everyone to see.
Say you, Angry Phil.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I'm here all the time and talk to Herbie. We have some great debates. Always, always debating. We'll agree, we'll disagree, but it's fun debates about sports. That's what we like to do. So,
What it's all about. So today, what we're going to be talking about is fantasy football and drafts, and we're going to be diving into a few different things. Where do we want to start at? How about how have you guys done historically in your leagues? Are you guys pretty solid? Are you guys, do you finish? Do you actually walk away with money? Or are you donors? Because if you're donors, I want you in my league.
Well, I think it all depends on the year. Sometimes you're a donor, sometimes you're lucky enough to come away with some cash into the day, make a few pennies. But at the end of the day, it's all it is, a few pennies, how much time you put in with fantasy football. But consistently, over the years, I've been pretty consistent. I consider myself a consistent playoff performer. At least giving myself a chance to be in the mix. And I think everyone says in sports, you just want to be in the dance, right? You just want to be in the playoffs. So gotta get there. So, depends on the year. Sometimes you draft well and you make it there. Sometimes you draft poorly and you're at the bottom of the league. So, but I think overall I've been pretty consistent over the last 15, 20 years.
I want to say I'm pretty knowledgeable enough to make the playoffs every year. I will say that, and that's always the goal, because beyond that, anything can happen in the playoffs. You don't know what your roster is going to look like by the end of the season. Injuries play a big part in fantasy football, so you do need some luck. But I think if you've done your research and you draft fairly well, you can put yourself in a good position to make the playoffs, and that's all you want to do. That's the goal.
So the next thing I want to talk about is the leagues that you're in right now. Let's just go through that real quickly, kind of give a frame of reference. So I'm in two different leagues myself. I'm in a 10-person league, and then I'm also in a 14-person league. So you blend them together. I guess I have the mentality of the 4-person league, but you got to keep them separate. The 14-person league is definitely a challenge. It's few and far between on what's available on the waiver wire. You're not going to get a lot. What about you guys? What kind of leagues are you in?
I'm basically, I used to be that guy who was like in 3, 4, 5 leagues. Now I'm down to like 1 or 2. I'm in, like you, I'm in one 14-person league, and that's my competitive league. It's that type of league where everybody's knowledgeable, and like you said, the waiver wire is super thin. So that puts a lot of emphasis on the draft, and a lot of me doing mock drafts, before bed, downtime, all types of stuff, being the fantasy guy that I am. But it's fun, My other league's a 12-person league. Fantasy football's taken off, and, a lot of different ways to strategize, a lot of different ways to approach it. So the more teams, the better, I think. It makes it more, intense, keeps you on your toes, makes you want to pay more attention to give yourself a chance to, win and not be the guy who's always getting his butt kicked every week.
Is that you, Phil, or are you the guy getting his butt kicked?
No. I'm definitely. I feel like I always put myself in the position where I have a pretty good team. I've done my research, and if I lose, it's because the gambling gods are against me.
The players just suck.
Yeah, it's not me. It's my team. It's nothing to do with me.
Now, what about the draft itself? To me, I personally, I get excited. I look forward to draft days. I like the idea of drafts coming up. It's on my calendar. I'm prepared for it, and I'm ready to roll with the drafts. I put some studying, kind of like Herb, long since I sit there and knocked out a couple of mock drafts to get a feel for it and get a feel for where I'm picking at and what what's to expect there. Understand that you got to take that with a grain of salt because those aren't the people in your league, and a lot of that's all automated. How many times do you do mock draft where someone doesn't drop out like fourth round?
Yeah.
And I've always felt like championships are won after the fourth round. It's that depth in your bench. That's who's going to take you to the ship.
Yeah, mock drafts, I think, just give you an idea of where some of the top players, probably like usually the top 50, are going to fall. Who's getting, taken early, whether it be our quarterbacks going early, our running backs going early, Now in today's, the way the football game is with all the passing, and PPR, our wide receivers flying off the board. So it gives you a strategy to form, And sometimes you go with what people are doing, sometimes you go against what people are doing, But the draft to me it's fun because sometimes you do it in person with your buddies, go out, to a bar, have drinks, and then by the 7th, 8th round, everyone's already hammered. Now you don't know who the hell you're picking, or, you just do it on person, you do it online, and then you got the one guy who's just, his whole team's getting auto drafted. He forgot about it, So, but it is what, sets up the league, or sets up your team. It's pretty much each idea of who's strong based off, rankings or whatnot. But then at the end of the day, like you said, who's getting that rookie in the 5th, 6th, 7th round? Who's getting that guy who was a second-tier, third-tier player that becomes a top player, in the 3rd or 4th round? Who's getting that quarterback who does what Jalen Hurts did last year, what Geno Smith did last year? It's one of those things where it's like, you just want to be that guy. You don't want to be that person who looks over him. You just hopefully click that button and you're good to go. So,
all right, let me jump ahead a little bit before I get on the Phil. You got anyone in your back pocket? Who's your 7th round, 8th round Jim? Who's your guy who's gonna come out and I'm putting you on the spot here.
That late in the draft, it's still hard to say, especially being a 14-player league. Those guys usually are like 9th, 10th rounders for us in the main league that I'm in. But I will say one guy that I like in like the 5th, 6th round is J.K. Dobbins to bounce back. He's coming off an injury, and usually Baltimore does a running back by committee. I think they're going to ease him in, but I think with Lamar Jackson coming back, getting the big contract, having been hurt the last couple of years, he's going to be a goal line feature back.
Yeah.
I think they're going to limit his touches, but I can see him getting double-digit touchdowns. I can see him getting 70, 80 yards a game and being worth the value in like the 4th, 5th, 6th round. Probably 5th, 6th round, I think, at this point.
All right. Phil, what about you? What's your draft strategy? Do you have any specific strategy you stick to?
So I'm usually involved in a lot of PPR leagues. I don't do a lot of leagues, so I'm only in a few. But I enjoyed a full PPR leagues. I wouldn't have PPR league before. It's very similar, but can't do the standard. I find it very boring. But I like these deep lineups. 2 through flex players. Like I like to play with a lot of players that you normally wouldn't draft or they just sit in your bench. I like to start those guys. I think that's where you distinguish yourself, really. So the bigger the lineup to me is better for me.
Those guys in their pits.
Well, there's some leagues where I have been in the past where instead of starting like the regular standard 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex, 4, 5, 6, and you got the defense and the kicker 7. In some leagues they go 8 or 9. I like those type of leagues because then you really have to use your knowledge. They're not sitting in your bench, so you really have to think about who you need to start. The PPR leagues that I've been in, my emphasis has always been trying to get the best wide receivers available in the first 2 rounds. That's how I've always been. I just feel like I have had really bad luck with running backs, but I also let the draft dictate who I need to draft at that point.
I'm in love with running backs who catch the offenses. I'm in love with just stashing those dudes away and piling up on them. And what I really like to saw, if you find a team, and I do like to evaluate the offensive line as well. Look at me as being a solid offensive line. And they go from depth on those teams because, hey, the running backs, they're going to go down. It's 1 out of every 3 is going to go down. And if you stash away that many backups, you're going to have success come October and November. And you're going to start racking up.
I agree with what both of you guys just said. I'm in a league very similar to what Phil said. We start 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a flex. I'm in a league where we start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. So this gives you options to where you can maybe get risky, say, give me Mark Andrews and give me Travis Kelce, my first and my third pick. And then you got one at tight end, one at flex. And then you use them as trade value late. You can go strictly wide receivers like Phil said. The way today's game is, it's all passing. And then I love what you said, too, with the running backs. Phil knows, because we've known him for years. Give me a Theo Riddick and a James White any day, back in the day.
They're going
to get 4 or 5 receptions, and then, that's boom, 10, 12 points, just like right there out of nowhere.
Yeah, those running backs are very valuable in PPR, and you can get away with using them as your running backs if your wide receivers are really good. I like that strategy, too. I'm very similar in that thinking.
Herb is still on his first beer, and Phil is in the process of building a Coors Latte pyramid. So right now what we're going to jump into and talk about is tight ends. How are we feeling about tight ends? And don't freaking tell me Travis Kelce. I don't want to hear it.
Because that's all there is.
Okay, no, there's not. You tell me, Chiggy. What about Chiggy?
Who?
Chiggy Okinawa.
Oh, so that could be your
From Tennessee?
performer. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
That could be the guy you hope to be, Dalton Schultz, like, or whoever else breaks out out of nowhere. But he ain't on nobody's radar right now. Come on now.
Perfect. That guy's talented. He's super athletic. I like him a lot.
Okay.
That guy. Who else do we like? Are we bypassing them all?
No, tight end is a position, especially for young quarterbacks. It's a safety valve. And I think it's one of those positions, and you say don't talk about Travis Kelce, but the man, that's why he's a top 5, top 7 ranked player. He's the number 1 target. He's 8 to 10. And this is why it goes back when I was talking about Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Cooper Kupp. Everybody in the world knew Kansas City was throwing the ball to Travis Kelce. And every playoff game, he still had 8 to 10 catches. Every game.
So where would you draft him if he's there?
I am staying away from Travis Kelce only because I feel there are tight ends available you can get in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. A couple guys that I like are Darren Waller, and I think he's going to have a bounce back year going to New York. You have Saquon running the ball. You got still a pretty weak wide receiving core, but I think he was so good in Oakland for a couple years to where I could see him going back to 60, 70 catches, 5, 6 touchdowns, being a 10 to 15 point performer each week, being like a number 4 or 5 overall tight end.
That's 2 things to consider. First of all, do you think that Waller has a chip on his shoulder?
Absolutely.
You got a little chip, but he did start late. He was a late rookie in his career, so he got to the game late.
I just think he's a physical specimen, and I think he's such a big body, and he's so athletic. You can line him up in the slot, and that's an automatic mismatch. You're not putting a linebacker on him, and then a nickel corner is too small for him, and a safety is too slow for him. So I think he's an overall mixed match. Going to New York, who desperately needs a receiving threat outside of Sterling Shepard, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but their wide receiving core is so bad, you really don't ever draft a New York Giants wide receiver until he performs himself. But that's why I think he's valuable, because he is going to get the targets as long as he's healthy again. He's another guy who has been hurt from time to time. But the other guy who I'm really, really big on, very similar to I talked about Alvin Kamara being in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. This was a guy people were taking early in last year and the year before, Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is actually going to be Kyle Pitts and show why he was a 4th overall pick in the draft. They have the rookie quarterback, Desmond Ridder. Second-year quarterback, Desmond Ridder. They have the rookie running back, Bijan Robinson. They have the second-year wide receiver in Drake London. So it's all a nice young nucleus. And as long as this guy stays healthy, very similar to Travis Kelce, very similar to Darren Waller, line him up in the slot, it's a mismatch. He's a wide receiver playing tight end. And I just think he's finally going to break out to 80, 90 catches, 5, 6 touchdowns, and be that guy. I'm targeting him in the 4th, 5th round. I think last I looked, he was 70th overall. So for my league, being a 14-player league, that's about the 5th round.
You guys in the same league or no?
No, we're not.
No, Phil and I have only played in, I think, 1 league together, maybe.
Yeah,
one
like to be in the league.
Years.
I would like to be in the league. We gotta figure it out one time. It was fun playing with Irby, because I knew how he was gonna draft.
And that's what makes fantasy too. Going back to strategy, when you play with the same people, you have a good idea of who they like.
Tendencies.
They have tendencies. Phil always joked with me, "Oh, Herbie's taking Julian Edelman in the 2nd round." Well, no crap, I'm taking Julian Edelman in the 2nd round. The man's gonna get 10 catches a game, and then he says Theo Riddick, James White, Golden Tate. There you go.
Yeah,
so that makes it fun.
If these guys were actually playing in NFL right now, he'd take all of them.
Oh no, they'd be my last 4 picks. Absolutely.
Yeah, tight ends it's a tough position. There's not. I would say there's Andrews, if healthy, and Lamar Jackson's healthy, right? He's going to put up some good numbers. He should be the number 2. Hopkins is actually number 3 in a lot of the rankings for
I like
tight
the
ends.
Lions this year too. The Lions have a lot of fun.
Well, he's on the Lions.
Hodgson actually got traded
To the Vikings.
late season last year. No, and that's not. A lot of people miss that. But no, I think both players. Andrews, I don't like in terms of his production, in terms of receptions and yards, like he has in previous years, only because of them adding Odell, drafting the rookie Zay Flowers. I believe they added another wide receiver too. That escapes my mind at this point. But just red zone targets. He is Lamar's very comfortable with Mark. So I think he's definitely going to be there in terms of touchdowns. And then I'd like T.J. Hockenson, him being that second receiver after Justin
The
Jefferson.
second option, yeah.
Second option after Justin Jefferson.
How are we feeling about Njoku?
I believe he's still in Cleveland. I think. No, I just see.
Yeah, he is.
I just see like every year the thing about releasing him or trading him.
Yeah.
But he's a freak athlete. I'm not big on Njoku this year only because Deshaun Watson has a year with the system. They still have Nick Chubb, so they're going to run the ball a lot. They have Amari Cooper. They have Diamond People-Jones. And then they sneaky pick, who I like for a flyer late, is Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was very unhappy in New York with the Jets, and then they traded for him. So I just think there's too many good players at the receiving position to count on him to be consistent at the tight end position.
Now let's go to your beloved Bears. We got some playmakers on the Bears at tight end.
Yes, I think. I think you're directly referring to Cole Kmet. I think he had a very good second half of the season. I think he's also more so a red zone target though than anything. So I think he might be more of a spot play. Or if you just happen to wait, which has happened to me multiple times, I try to wait for a tight end. I'm eyeing a guy in the 6th, 7th, 8th round, then get snatched up before I can get him. And all of a sudden I'm here in the 12th round without a tight end. Okay, I guess I'll take Cole Kmet.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't see him being consistent though as far as 70 catches, 900 yards, and those touchdowns. But I think he's definitely going to be a red zone target because he did fairly well there last year. And when you have smaller receivers like the Bears do have outside of Chase Claypool, your next red zone target becomes your tight end.
And who's the big boy that they got from Green Bay?
Tunyon, but he's the second option, and you're definitely not going to rely on him for any consistency.
No,
Yeah,
he's a red zone target all the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, unless Kmet gets hurt, he's not going to be relevant. He'll be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, if that's a good point though, and fantasy is all about health. If for whatever reason, knock on wood, Kmet does get hurt, Tunyon could become the valuable option.
Yeah.
Because then they'll have both of the Green Bay tight ends. They signed Mercedes Lewis. He'll be the blocking tight end. Tunyon becomes receiving tight end. And we would hope with Moore, Claypool, Mooney, the middle's open for Kmet and Tunyon, but just consistency-wise, and the Bears are still a run-first team. They were number one in the run game last year on offense. I just don't see them being consistent. But someone in every league is going to end up with Cole Kmet as their number one because that's just the way the chips fall.
All right, hit us up, Herb. What do you got for tight end?
No, just we were talking about guys that we like and who we think can do well this year. I just got one more guy that I think can do well at very good value. I think Hayden Hurst. I was just looking where he is. He's ranked pretty far down. But if he can stay healthy going into Carolina, leaving Cincinnati, I think he has a chance to do well only because it is a rookie quarterback. They are Hayden Hurst,
Where's he at?
Carolina.
Okay.
And the wide receivers are a little bit older, DJ Shark and Adam Thielen. I think he's a guy who can get you 5, 6, 7 catches a game. Kind of be similar to what Austin Hooper was when he broke on the scene in Atlanta, where he became a steady Eddie. So I think if you're drafting late, 8th, 9th, 10th round, still need a tight end. If you are even as a second or just you're looking for one of those two guys and you're just short, try him. And then a few guys who I don't think are going to perform what they've done in previous years. Dallas Goedert, I just think there's too many cooks in the kitchen. They got Smith, they got Brown, they got multiple running backs. I don't see him, being a top 10 tight end this year. I could be wrong. That's why it's all fantasy. It's what you think. And then Kittle. I think Kittle's gonna have a setback. I think there's just too much on his body, and that's another one. There's so many good skill players there. They got Samuel, they got Ayuk, they got McCaffrey. I know he broke out with Purdy there, and just the inconsistency at quarterback too. And then he's hit or miss every year with his health. He's already questionable. So just a few guys. I think if you like someone, take them. But
Hayden Hurst, that's the answer.
Hayden Hurst, I think, is going to be a late guy.
Isn't that what we're all looking for, though? I mean, if we're drafting, what you're looking for is that leap value of that breakout opportunity, and they're never going to be. It's all rolling the dice. Maybe it's a 50% chance. Maybe it's 20% chance. I think we'll dig in.
Yeah, or even you
kind thing,
or you can even go with the route. Like so, I like to draft my wide receivers, and I try to like to fill my lineup out completely, and then go for good bench players. So where when I do have bye weeks, or if someone isn't performing, then they can fill in and do almost as good. If you draft Mark Andrews earlier, you draft George Kittle 3rd, 4th round, and they're not performing, draft Hayden Hurst 9th or 10th, and then boom, oh, he's on my bench. He got me 12 points. Okay, I didn't play him. He's on my bench. He got me 11 points. Okay, I didn't play him. The other guys aren't going to get more than 40.
Provided we could trade away for him, get something else for him.
Now you even trade him. Trade the other guy that give you more value, and then just plug him in. So, and then Evan Ingram's another guy who was great with Trevor Lawrence last year, but I think he may be just solid, maybe not as good as he was the end of last year, because Jacksonville low-key had a very, very sneaky trade move, and they got Calvin Ridley. And now he has loaded up on the wide receiving core. Trevor Lawrence is, who's a guy I really, really like at the quarterback position for where he's ranked with Kirk, Zay Jones, and Calvin Ridley. I think that Evan Ingram will still do okay, but not what he did last year.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you were saying, though. In Jacksonville, has more targets now, so you're taking away targets from Ingram. So you have to think about the additions each team has made. For tight ends, I just pray, because I'm not gonna go for Kelsey unless it's very ideal. Like,
do you know what pick you have in your draft yet?
I have number 10 at work. I think it's a half PPR actually. That does make a difference.
Big difference.
Yeah. I have to see how the draft unfolds, but
well, I think you're pretty safe with not having to worry about Kelsey there.
I think Kelsey will lose.
What do you have to be at? Where he's too soon for him? What pick would he have to be
I think Kelsey, for me, he has to be in the 2nd round for me.
No, I actually think if you're going to take Travis Kelsey, because he has been pretty durable.
Yeah.
Even though he is getting a little bit older, it would have to be in the spot you actually have, a 10th pick.
The 10th pick.
Because that's where you're getting the spot where you're saying Travis Kelsey or Saquon Barkley, Travis Kelsey or Bijan Robinson, Travis Kelsey or Derrick Henry, and they're all running backs.
That's true.
You got
I'm gonna
back up anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see. I'm just trying to avoid him though. Really, I feel like a lot of guys I know that drafted Kelsey in the 1st round, their team did not turn out to be very good.
No, he's a very high pick. And then, like you said, with the snake draft, you have to wait 15, 20 picks before you get your next guy. And that's basically a late 2nd, early 3rd round value player. So
he is very durable.
If you're at the corner, if you're at the turn, and you can pick up Kelsey right now. And then you have your choice of one of 3 or 4 running backs, whoever.
So if he does fall and people are thinking kind of like we are, where we don't value him as high as he is, then that's where you take the risk on him. But let that guy in the 5th, 6th round, 5th, 6th overall pick take Kelsey, and you just worry about hopefully drafting the right running back, or just drafting a guy like CeeDee Lamb, a guy like A.J. Brown, a guy like Devontae Adams if he stays healthy, who can easily be just as good as Jamar Chase or Cooper Kupp, or even Justin Jefferson if he has a setback. With your late 1st round pick.
I feel like with tight ends in the last couple, actually maybe like the last 3-4 years, I've always felt like I just get the best available tight end in the later rounds, and then as the season goes by, there's some tight end that pops off, gets like a consistent role. This is a bad example, but like someone like Isaiah Likely got hot for a little bit. That's something that I usually kind of rely on, just because there's not a lot of good tight ends. So if you're not getting Kelsey or Andrews, and then a lot of people that relied on getting Andrews and Kittle last year, who thought they were going to be really good, they weren't. Well, they were hurt, or
You just made before we go on to the next topic.
Yeah.
You just made a very good point. I mentioned Hayden Hurst. Isaiah Likely's a guy you may want to draft in the 10th, 11th pick. You feel like you like your lineup, just sit him there and stash him. I did a very good job of just doing a little research me last year. Rashad White, I believe first name's Rashad White from Tampa Bay. I drafted him late. He didn't play for me the first 12 weeks. He just stashed there, got put in, and all of a sudden he's a 10 to 15 point player. Once Leonard Fournette goes out, and there was nobody else to go to for Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And once they realized they weren't going anywhere and win the season.
Yep.
So no, there's young guys like Isaiah Likely and others, who you can easily draft late that may sit on your bench and give you production. And there's other players out there too. Rookie tight ends in Mayer, Dalton Kincaid. They have no, true value now, but you got to give them a chance. Will Dawson Knox, have a better role for Tampa Bay, for Buffalo, with the wide receivers being the focal point in Diggs and Davis. It's a lot of value or upside for Titans if you get one of those guys late, because one or two, maybe even three are going to break out.
Yeah, for sure.
Right now, we're going to dive into, what are you thinking? Booms and busts for fantasy football? That's what we're doing? Did everyone get their draft picks started?
We know boom or bust, guys who are expect to go high that we don't see doing too well, or guys who are projected in those third, fourth, fifth rounds. Yeah, into a little bit with a couple of players we mentioned earlier, but we can quickly touch that. Yeah.
But first, let's go. Phil, what do you get?
Well, this is a kind of a strange one, but Tyreek Hill, I still think he's last year, I think he was a lot more consistent, but I'm still wary of him. I think he's one of those elite boomer bust guys.
So you see him as just being solid, where some weeks he's going to perform, some weeks he's not?
Yeah.
Or do you think he's just going to be like, for a first round pick 6 through 10 in most PPR leagues, you don't think it's going to be worth it? Which way are you leaning?
He's just one of those guys, I feel like. Well, actually, being in Miami, he's only one of the two options, in my opinion, so that might be hard for me to say. I'm probably thinking of him when he was in Kansas City more, but I just feel like there's always like 3 to 4 games where he isn't putting up enormous amount of points. It's a tough thing for me to figure out. I don't know. Do you think it's different every year with guys with the boom and bust?
I think it's definitely different every year. And actually, I wasn't going to mention him, but since you brought him up, I actually can see Tyreek Hill, just for where he's going to be drafted, top 10, being a bust. Only because the question mark quarterback.
Yeah.
Tua is literally, and pray that it doesn't happen, he is literally one hit from not having an NFL career.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you got to have some concerns there.
He's one hit of not having an NFL career.
Yeah, it's very scary.
Jalen Waddle,
Back to be honest, we had that last year, and that's bad.
it's very bad. And then Jalen Waddle's a very good player too. And I just think teams are going to just, defend them differently. I was very surprised they did not go out and get Dalvin Cook. And I was very surprised when Dalvin Cook ended up in New York. And I drafted Tyreek Hill 2 years ago. I had him paired with Patrick Mahomes, and I guess because Travis Kelce's there, but it was one of those things where it's just like, I don't think he was what I expect him to be. I think he's more of an explosive player, and he's also another guy, like we mentioned earlier, a lot of wear on his tires.
Yeah.
So, Hill.
Yeah.
So I definitely can see that being a possible bust. But
We're always scared of getting someone who's done it for years, but we're waiting for the wheels to kind of fall off, right? So that's what you have to think of.
off. It's just like, instead of going
Decline a little
80,
Yeah.
now you're scoring 65.
Yeah.
Instead of being a 10 out of 10, now you're 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So no, that's one guy I can definitely see that. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but for sure. For me, I think it's the I think the number one overall running back last year is Josh Jacobs. It's a different quarterback. Derek Carr is not. Jimmy G is not Derek Carr. Devontae Adams is a lot of wear on his tires.
The backup that's getting all the reps who practice right now.
I can look that up. I believe it's Amir Abdullah was getting carries last year.
Jesus.
But
Not good.
yeah, no, the Raiders are a team to me that just across the board are gonna struggle, especially in the division that they're in.
Yeah. That division's rough.
The only one consistent And it goes back to what we were talking about with receivers is Devontae Adams, who also can, I'm not going to call him a bust by any means because he's Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
But he can just take a step back. But yeah, I can just see Josh Jacobs easily becoming a running back 2 option.
Yeah.
A guy that you said I drafted in the league first round, I drafted in the early second round. I have to play him every week, but he's not doing anywhere close to what he did last year.
He could be one of those candidates that, you know, because of his draft status, he keeps starting him, waiting for him to pop off, and he's just not there. Yeah, him and Williams from the Colts is scary. Taylor, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Taylor. Both of those guys are very scary.
Yeah, I know. And Josh Jacobs can easily be similar to what Jonathan Taylor was. I think Jonathan Taylor was pretty much the overall first pick last year. And then he struggled for the first 10 games. And then he finally came on. And, you know, that's the beautiful thing about fantasy, you know. You're sitting there, you're like, do I take this guy? Do I take this guy? Do I take this guy? Or do I take a flyer on a guy like Ramondre Stevenson,
Yeah,
who I like a lot?
I like him too.
Do you take a chance on a guy like Najee Harris, who has been consistent but has not had that 1,400 yard season, 10, 12 touchdowns, but he's all the ability in the world? You know, do you take a chance on the rookie from Detroit, Gibbs? You know, do you load your wide receiver?
He's scared the
What do you
hell
think about the running back from Atlanta,
That's
John Robinson?
That's-
He's rated 4 in top 100
running back overall. Running backs. McCaffrey, Eckler.
Okay, running backs, but I've seen him in a lot of top 10s. I've seen him in a lot of top 10s
No,
overall.
he's definitely an overall top 10 player for sure.
I mean, I've heard he's the best running back prospect since Jim Brown. And I've obviously never seen him. Jim Brown's a Hall of Famer, but
Well, no,
he's getting tons of hype.
No, don't get me wrong. He is a physical specimen.
Yeah.
And he is great. That's why he sat out his bowl game, and that's why he was a top 10 pick overall in the draft when you don't even draft running backs anymore in the first round period, let alone the top 10. Pretty much really the only one that consistently has worked out has been Christian McCaffrey. And even he has been hurt at times. But he is the reason why I kind of like Drake London, why I like Kyle Pitts.
Because the focus will be on stopping him.
I think he's going to force them to stack the box.
Yeah.
I like Atlanta across the board as a team.
You think they can win the division?
I think they can definitely compete for the division because Tampa Bay should be bad. I think Carolina should be bad.
They have talent, but they're going to be bad.
Yeah. And then New Orleans should be the team that wins it, but Atlanta's not far away. They competed a lot last year.
Yeah.
So I
They
think,
competed very well, yeah.
yeah.
Kyle Pitts was kind of disappointing last year. I thought he was going to have a better season than he ended up having.
Kyle Pitts is definitely a disappointment last year. Well, that's why I'm expecting a bounce back from him this year.
Okay, bounce back.
I think he was, especially with the Ridley suspension, he became the main guy, and you could have named one Atlanta wide receiver worth a damn, last year after Ridley got suspended. So
I had to throw to someone.
you got to throw to someone. But when your focus is on one guy, especially a younger guy, but I think, trust me, I'm hoping Kyle Pitts is there for me, and I'm going to jump.
Where are you shooting for him again? Fourth to fifth round?
So let's do the math real quick. I have the 12th pick, so I'll have the 12th and then 13, 14, 14, 13. I'll have 12th and 16. Then I'll come back around and give me late 30s. I'm shooting for the 5th round. I like 5th round.
Yeah, I mean, Herbie, I agree with you in a lot of stuff. I was trying to argue with you, but not today. Or maybe I'm a little tipsy or hungover.
I think it's a combination after UFC weekend.
Oh, my God.
We know Phil goes hard on UFC weekend.
Oh,
and we'll
my
get into UFC down the road with some big fights coming up,
I got to say this, though. If Ian Gary ever watches our on YouTube, let me tell you something. You are an asshole. You don't know how to finish fights. I don't know what you were doing out there. Well, you embarrassed me. I don't like you. You're not Conor McGregor.
So our surprise guest is actually, that's him. He's right outside in the parking lot.
What? Where is he? Where the fuck is he? No, I'm kidding. Anyways, yeah. But, no, Hervey, you made tons of great points. I do agree with you on a lot of things you said today.